we can't be lackadaisical in investing in our infrastructure. Projects like this are a good example of that.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the State of Soy. I'm Aaron Putzi. I'm visiting with Mike Steenhoek. Mike serves as the Executive Director of the Soy Transportation Coalition, and we're coming to you from downtown Des Moines, and we have an abandoned rail trestle behind us, Mike, because the conversation here is about a very important development with a rail system out west that moves a lot of grain. And I want to start with the project that the STC really led investments in to help to the benefit of the soybean farmer.
Well, one of the most effective ways to increase soybean exports is to lower the cost of those soybeans to our international customers. One of the most effective ways of lowering the cost to our international customers is to have a more cost-effective supply chain. Each link in our supply chain being more robust, more economical. And one of the important launching points for soybean exports is the Pacific Northwest. 25% of U.S. soybeans depart from a collection of export terminals in the Pacific Northwest, primarily in Washington State. And there's one of the significant ones called Tacoma Export Marketing Company, or TEMCO for short, is at the Port of Kalama, and that is about 45 minutes away from Portland, Oregon. And one of the challenges this facility has experienced over the years is a real congestion for its rail infrastructure at the facility. You'll have loaded trains coming in, and then they'll unload at the facility, but they don't have sufficient amount of trackage, siding, to be able to move that empty train off out of the way so that loaded trains can continue to cycle through and to have good efficient throughput. So what that means is that you're having a real decreased amount of efficiency at one of our key export facilities. So they've endeavored long to be able to increase that amount of infrastructure, that rail infrastructure there, so they can have that better fluidity. It's kind of like on the farm, keep the combines rolling.
And so you saw a need and rallied investments from the soybean farmer to study it up a bit with the purpose then of securing some funding to really do the kind of work necessary to expand the rail service. Explain.
We actually raised $200,000 from a number of soybean farmer organizations, the United Soybean Board, Soy Transportation Coalition, but the Iowa Soybean Association was one of those important partners in this to help offset some of the pre-engineering, design, analysis kind of expenses associated with that project. Well, what was important about that is that they in turn were able to broadcast and advertise that soybean farmers are putting skin in the game. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and they were able to get a $26.3 million federal grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And so it's a good example of farmers wanting to help leverage their dollars to result in a greater outcome. Farmers have a long track record of being able to achieve those kind of things. This is just another good example of that. And so at the end of the day, farmers are not going to have to guess whether or not their investments made a difference. They will be able to go to this facility and see greater throughput for soybean exports leaving from one of our key export terminals, and be able to see, because of that and because of their investment in part, now soybean exports from the U.S. are more efficient and more robust.
Explain a little bit, Mike, as to what that $26 million plus investment is going to do on the ground there at TEMCO, and why that upgrade and improvement is so critical to the soybean farmer.
80% of U.S. soybean exports occur between the months of September and February, so we have a very concentrated time of the year where it's game time for U.S. soybean exports, and it's particularly acute during October, November, December. And that's when this congestion historically occurs at these facilities like at TEMCO. This federal grant is going to be used for, and it's actually under the Federal Railroad Administration, which is under the U.S. Department of Transportation. This funding will be used to actually increase the linear feet of trackage at this facility. So again, you've got a full train coming in, it unloads, and then you want to get that out of the way so that you're not interrupting that throughput coming to that facility. So it's really going to help increase the fluidity and the efficiency of that port.
And last question, Mike, when do you expect this work to be completed? Kind of what's the time frame?
Yeah, it's going to take at least a couple years. So these infrastructure projects do take a considerable period of time, But again, that's going to be something in the very near future that you'll be able to go and see. Our supply chain is more efficient. U.S. soybean exports are more efficient in the international marketplace. We have to remember, we've got competition. We can't be lackadaisical in investing in our infrastructure. We need to be aggressive in investing in it if we hope to have a really strong export program. Projects like this are a good example of that.
So it's another example of how the soybean checkoff is going to work for the soybean farmer. A few better examples than this latest one from Temco, courtesy of the soybean checkoff and the work of the Soy Transportation Coalition. Reporting for this edition of the State of Soy, I'm Aaron Putsey.
Do you remember when you first believed that anything was possible? Do you remember when you had doubt? Obstacles you couldn't overcome? Do you remember when you pushed through the pain and refused to quit? Remember, He created you for this.